Welcome back to my greenhouse diaries. So it's now September, which means it's coming to the end of the growing season for many of my succulents. So there's lots of jobs I need to be doing. I've got some updates for you from past videos. I've also got some kind of highs and lows for the month, what I've had maybe some losses of and some success as well. So I'll be sharing that all with you today. So come in, let's have a look. Let's have an overview of the succulents to start with, because they are probably why you're here. So these are my beauties. This is my collection at the moment. I've been doing quite a lot of watering. I've had some really thirsty ones which are gasping for a drink. You can see these awful green labels, but this does mean that I have been busy repotting a lot of the mix that they are in, and I've got lots of gaps where I've been leaving some outside to obviously dry off in the sunshine when it comes out. Yeah, so they were looking beautiful at the minute, really colourful. Because the temperatures are kind of dropping at night time here at the minute, we're going down to about 10 degrees. It's just causing the colours to come out really nicely on some of these. In the day, it does reach about 35 in here, so it's still very mixed, very varied. But yeah, they're doing really well. They're actually probably enjoying not having quite as much heat as they have been having in here. But yeah, they're doing beautifully. Oh, just kicked something. Yeah, they look amazing. So just the true reality of what it looks like in here at the minute. It's a complete mess because I'm just trying to get jobs done at the minute and kind of rushing around. So these succulents on this tray here are ones that I've watered. They've been outside drying off. I say drying off, I keep forgetting that they're outside and they keep getting wet in the rain. So they have now been dry for about 3 days. So what that means is at the minute, because I've got kind of a project that I'm undertaking and trying to get through, I want to change all of the soil. I've mentioned this in past videos. I basically made a decision at the start of the year to repot them all into a half compost, half grit mix, but I used a multi-purpose compost, which I didn't realise is really full of bark and kind of really organic matter, which really is not good for succulents. So what I'm doing now is, as soon as I'm watering them and they are completely dried out and they've plumped nicely, I'm then repotting them. So it just makes sure they do get a good drink, but also then they are put into a nice mix ready for winter. So they're not sitting in a really wet organic mixture, which obviously could cause them to rot, which is the same with these ones down here and these ones. And then, like I said, I've had quite a lot of rain, so I've got some odd ones that I've brought in, and I've got all sorts of kind of projects. If I have like things that are ongoing, I know I need to do something with them, I just kind of shove them down here and maybe forget about them. So yes, that is what I'm going to do, is sort some of this out today as well. Yeah, and just share with you all of the tasks I've got for September. So if you watch my channel, thank you, welcome back. If you're new, hi, it's great to see you. I really appreciate you watching the video. But you'll know, if you do watch my channel, that I have got 2 greenhouses. So this one, which we're now in, is my growing greenhouse. So this has got any seedlings, any pups, any leaf props, anything really, and also my sale section as well. So I have my hobby greenhouse, which I just showed you, and this is kind of my sale or growing greenhouse. So I'll just give you a quick tour of here and just explain what I've been up to and all the jobs that I'm undertaking at the minute. So this is what I mean by my growing greenhouse. It's just absolutely chock-a-block full of everything and anything. So the start of the process for me really is creating or growing succulents from seed. So I'd either do this by pollinating my own succulents, which I think all of these are. Yeah, they are. These are all ones that I've done myself. In the past I have bought seeds before, but I just prefer to try and do my own where possible. So this is kind of stage 1. This is how we start. I've sown my seeds and I let them sit here until they have got some, I would say about 3 or 4 true leaves. So these ones definitely are ready to pot on. It's very strange sometimes how some grow absolutely huge and some are really quite small, but these are a lot of hybrids. So it could be that some of these are a bit more like one of the parents than the other, so that could kind of explain the differences. And then in here, I've got one little one in there. Wow, that is an interesting hybrid. So hopefully that survives, but I'm not sure I'm holding up much hope for that one. But yeah, so this is kind of stage 1. As you can see, when you have a successful batch, they get very overcrowded. So it might be a good time for me to start pricking these out soon. into these small seed trays. So these are 264 cell seed trays. So they are tiny, but obviously these little babies are tiny as well. But when you prick some of them out, it does give the rest of them room to grow and stretch their legs a little bit. But these ones are overdue some potting on, and then the same over here. So we've just got lots of different ones. So that's stage one. Stage two is when I put them onto the seed trays, like I just mentioned, the 264s. So in these sections at the minute, I've got lots of gaps because I've been repotting them onto the next size up. So that's kind of the process. So as soon as they fill these cells, like probably this one now, they'll then get repotted onto the next size up. It's always a little bit of a difficult time of year at the moment because I don't want to put them on too soon because it's obviously going to change temperature quite a lot and they won't grow as much, but I don't want them to be stuck in here for too long either. So it's kind of a trial and error this year to what is the best thing to do. And then once they've got to this stage, like I said, they then go up another stage, which would be this tray over here. I think it's 124 cell, but yeah, that one they're a little bit bigger, so they then get to stretch their legs a bit more. And as you can see, these ones are huge. So some of them grow really quickly, some of them not so much. So I've got some Lowy hybrids up the end there. They're quite slow at growing, whereas these ones are some Ryoka. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. I'll put it on the screen. There's some hybrids and they are growing very, very quickly. And we've got a mix of Saraheims, we've got some Canties, some Ebony, some Lilicenas, all sorts growing in there. So that's a really exciting tray, and that's the next size up. So they will stay in here now until next spring when they have another growth spurt again. So yeah, one job there done anyway. And other trays I have are trays of pups. So these are all pups of my head chops. So the stems, which I keep over on this side, obviously when I head chop, I get little pups grow on the stems, and once they're big enough, I water them and then remove the pups. So the pups then go into a tray like this over here, which I believe is a 200 cell tray. And once they have rooted, I'll then pop them on to a bigger tray. So at the minute, they're rooting quite nicely. That's really nicely actually. So yeah, so once they've filled that cell tray and looking quite big, they can go on to the next size up as well. But like I say, at the minute, it's kind of touch and go on whether I do that now or wait until the spring. I have actually started labelling my trays because I seem to get a little bit confused with what is what. So these are all pups as well for the next size up. And yeah, doing really well. And another huge part really of my growing succulents are leaf props. So as soon as I water a succulent and it plumps up really nicely, I will leaf prop it. I let the leaves sit in a tray or container like this, and as soon as they pup or start to root, they get transferred over into one of these, which is the 264 tray, and then they're watered once a day, once every other day, just depending on the weather and how quickly they're drying out between waterings. But yeah, I've got quite a few of those which are doing really well. And again, when they get too big, they then get potted onto a bigger tray like this. So that all takes quite a lot of time. The potting on process is very slow. I find it quite a satisfying task, but quite a tedious one as well. It's like I say, it just takes a long while to do, and you kind of just bent over the thing with your neck down and getting a sore neck and just doing it slowly, but it does make such a difference. Potting on succulents into a bigger cell when they are ready to be potted on makes such a difference between their rate of growth. It makes them grow a lot quicker if you're giving them that extra room at the right time of the season. So as I've mentioned a little bit, at the minute, because it's the end of the season, I just don't want to put on too much into a too big a cell, because they're not going to be able to fill that cell completely ready for winter. Obviously winter is kind of a time where I find it's just keep the roots as healthy as possible and strong as possible to get through that season until spring comes and they can start to grow again. So I'm probably going to keep a lot of these in the cell trays they're in. I've done a lot of repotting this week, so I've just found like 264 cell trays with quite good sized succulents in, and they're just kind of sitting there a little bit dormant at the minute. I think they've probably been sat in there too long, not growing at all. So I have done some potting up this week, and hopefully they will be able to spread their legs a little bit before the end of the season, or before the start of winter really. But I will be hopefully moving some of these into my garage. I'm hoping to make some room in there and have some grow lights up, just so I can keep, I don't necessarily want them to grow, I just want to keep them ticking over so they don't struggle and die off over winter, because I have grown so much this year and I didn't necessarily plan to. I've just kind of got carried away with it. I'm trying to, yeah, just experiment with different ways of doing it, and I seem to have kind of hit a successful way of propping and leaf propping and pupping and growing things this year. Like my seedlings have done a lot better because I've watered them a lot more, so I've kind of had trial and error and it's actually worked really well this year, so I'm really pleased. It just means I've got a lot and I really want to make sure they survive because I've put so much time into it this year. It's been a big passion project of mine, so I want to make sure that they survive. I know you get some deaths and that is, that's life, but as much as possible I would like to try and get them to survive. So I'm going to put some in the garage under grow lights, and that just means that they won't obviously be hit by the really cold weather when we get it this winter. So as well as potting on and changing a few this week, I've also had a big tidy up. So I've made room on this top shelf for all of these beauties, because a lot of these trays I have had outside because they're quite mature plants. I thought, you know what, it's probably a good idea just to let them have some rain, some sun, some wind, and just see what happens. And it's been brilliant for them. I've absolutely loved it. We have had a lot of rain. I was a little bit paranoid at times about them because when it's rained, the soil has been absolutely saturated, and then it's just been raining for like 3-4 days non-stop. And obviously the succulents do like to dry off in between. So I was a little bit worried, but I've only had, I don't know, 2 losses out of probably 120 plants. So that is not bad, and it might be from other reasons as well. But yeah, I had to make room to get those in now because I don't want them to get too wet at this time of the year. Like I say, it's kind of the end of the season and you don't want to have saturated soil for long durations when it's not as warm. It's, like I said, it's dropping to about 10 degrees, maybe a bit lower at the minute. So yeah, it's just kind of a bit of a balancing act at the minute. It's a strange time of year and you just have to keep checking the forecast to see what the weather's going to be. I'm sure the ice cream man comes on every video. Alright, stop now. So my kind of losses or challenges this month. So I'm not sure if I mentioned in my last video, it might have been just on the cusp of August into September. But I definitely have mentioned I've had issues with my imported succulents. So I've lost quite a few due to what I think is kind of rotting by maybe the plants being left a little bit too damp while being shipped. Unfortunately, I think that's what it is. I can't see any other reason for it because I don't always water them when they first arrive. It takes me a long time to water them because I've had issues in the past with them being a little bit delicate and then rotting from being watered. So what I would say is there's not much I could have done to prevent it, basically, in my opinion. I think it's either mildew or something like that, which is getting into the stem, because it seems to be not the roots, not the crown, it's kind of the middle where I think that moisture from them being sprayed with the chemicals and things is kind of sat for too long and, unfortunately caused rot. And it just hasn't shown up for a really long time, which is really bizarre. But so something that I've had that affect this month is my black prints. Variegated as well. It just seems to be the variegated ones. I know they are a lot more sensitive and susceptible to rotting and burning and things like that. That's just part of the game of the variegation, kind of the variegated ones, should I say. But it just seems to be a hell of a lot of them have been affected this time. However, I have got a positive spin on something kind of negative, and I wanted to share it with you because I'm really excited. I'm hoping next month I'll have even better news on it as well. So I'll insert some clips here of my black prints when it arrived. I think I have actually shared this in my last videos now thinking about it. So what I decided to do more recently is chop it. I was like, I'm not going to wait and just see if it dies off. I'm going to do something about it. So I have chopped the head. So unfortunately this is all that is left from the head. Obviously it doesn't look as good as it was at all. However, I did notice yesterday we have got some teeny tiny roots just around the edge there, so that is really positive. I'm hoping that because it's starting to root, this part is going to survive, live on and become a plant of its own. So that is some really positive news for the month, and you know what, I think it's well deserved. I've lost a lot, so if I can have a few which survive, I would be thrilled. And this is the thing I'm most excited about. I'm giving you a little sneak peek here. This is the stem. So I have got some tiny, tiny pups appearing. So I've got, it's really hard to see actually. So there's one here, there's one below it, there's one over here, one down there. They kind of blend in a little bit. One there, one there. So what is that? 6, 7. So I have got, I think, 7 pups growing on here at the minute. I have had this happen with my dusty rose, which then all died off, but I'm thinking this must be okay. Excuse my horrible nails at the minute, because we've got some healthy roots down here still, so I'm just hoping that this will continue to grow. So this hadn't been watered, this plant, at all. Obviously it's been head chopped, as you just saw the head, and then recently I just saw these little pups appearing, so I gave it some water, and since I've watered it, these pups have got a lot bigger. So they were just tiny kind of little nubs, but now you can actually see a little bit of a actual form of a plant. So I'm just really hoping that some of these are successful, because like I say, I think I deserve a little bit of good news from this import, because I've lost so much. And obviously, yes, it is the cost and that, but it's just frustrating when you buy things and you put so much care into them and then they don't survive, especially when you've literally done nothing to them apart from pot them on in some dry soil. So yeah, this is really positive, but hopefully I'll have a really good update next month for you as well. Which brings me on to the elegans. So I showed this last month and I was like, don't think it's gonna do much. I think it's still not doing much. I think it's just really slowly dying. I've just been trying to chop away any rotten things, but it just looks terrible. I've just left it outside in a really dry area to get some kind of air, but nothing's happening. It's not completely dying, but it's not living either. So I'm just gonna see what happens with that one. But again, I'm still not positive at all. Next on my list, which I had actually forgotten about, is my beautiful variegated one. It's a Succulent. I found one tiny black spot on the plant and realised rot was kind of in the middle. Again, the same as what I've been seeing on all the other ones. So I don't think this is going to survive. You can see all the leaves have already got the rot inside them, but I have chopped it and put the flowers of sulphur on there to see if it survives. But again, this is one I hadn't watered. It was imported with the rest, and just has that strange rot in the middle. This is nearer the crown really than the middle, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll have some news next month, but again, not looking good. And I promise this isn't all bad news on this video, but this is another one which is from the same import. So this is a variegated raindrop. Again, it had rot right in the middle, which has travelled up here. I've chopped it and put some flowers of sulphur on. It has been in here for probably about 3 weeks and it's not got any worse, but it's not got any better. So if anyone's had a plant like this and it looks like this for a long period of time, do you have any advice? Do you have anything that worked for you, or is it just a wait and see game? I wanted this plant for so long and it was the first time I've seen it for sale where I buy my plants from. So I actually got 2 and the one outside is doing amazingly. So I'm hoping that will survive, and I can bring it in, maybe head chop it next year. But this one, who knows, it doesn't look good, but we will see. And my next piece of news is kind of a mixture really. So these are my beautiful seedlings, which are a mixture of my hybrids and just all seeds grown by me from my own plants, which I'm so proud of. However, my strictifloras, which I was very excited about, we've had 3 losses, so you can just see the remnants of some over there. That one's rotten. That one's still going strong at the moment. But I think what I would probably say I've learned from this is that when I've potted them on from their original, I think they're in 264 tray and they went into this one, it is a too big a jump for them in my opinion, and what I've learned anyway. So they probably need to go into like a 124 tray. I think this one's like a 72. It just means that there is too much soil in there for them. Their roots need to grow a lot to fill this cell, and if they don't, it is obviously causing possible chances of rotting. It's only been 3, but it has been that same plant, which I don't know if they're a little bit more particular and a little bit more prone to rotting. I know I have had my mature plant of it rot in the past, but these are all doing really well, so it is just probably a little bit of a risk putting them into a cell tray which is this much bigger than what they were in before. So definitely for next year, once I'm repotting them in from a 264, I would downsize to like a 124, because yeah, the jump is probably just too big for some of them. It depends on the type obviously, but like that one is doing amazing. That's really looking very good, and you know, a lot of them are, but it's just a risk. So my piece of advice to share would be just to make sure you're not potting them into a too big a cell tray for the next stage up. So a really important topic that I want to cover with you is a treatment which I use twice a year on my succulents as a preventative measure for bugs. So I really only ever see mealies. I don't, thank God, haven't had vine weevil, evil weevil, that I know of. I think I would know of it. So vine weevil eats through the stem of your plants, and it's kind of too late before you see it. They lay eggs which turn into quite funny little grubs. I haven't had them in my collection, but I don't know if it's because I've always used this preventative measure. So I normally use this at the start of the season in March, and then at the end of the season in September, October. And the treatment that I use is bug clear. So bug clear, which I use, is a treatment which is concentrated. So you put it in with a litre of water, and I think the dosage is 60 ml. So you put it in with your water. It's quite strong, so you could always use a mask, and obviously just be careful of it on your hands and things. You can wear gloves when you use it, but I just mix it into my watering can, and then I just tip it into the plants, into the soil, and it works as a systemic. So the plant soaks it up into the roots, and it's the roots which then take that treatment into the plant, and then if the mealies or whatever bug it is preventing bites into the plant, that does kill them off. So it's really good for preventing bugs rather than treating them. Obviously I think it is a treatment. You can get a spray form of it as well, but I found that using this twice a year does such amazing things for my collection. I don't really have that many problems with mealies. I always find the odd one or two. I think that's just going to happen, but I don't ever have, touch wood, vine weevil or anything else that I see on the packaging, which terrifies me. So I think that means it works. I don't use it for my outside plants because it does affect the bees, so I just use it on the greenhouse because I don't get bees in here, because my shade net and things, they can't come in, so it's safe for them. But it's just something that I would highly recommend, and it works really, really well. I have looked at other methods which aren't as kind of toxic, because I'm very aware that it's probably not very good for the environment and things, but I can't find anything that's good for succulents which acts the same. So if you do have any suggestions, please do share them. I'd love to hear any advice you have. But yeah, so that's a big task for September, because on the subject of watering, I have done previously a video on my drench and dry method, which is amazing. It's all I use for summer when obviously the weather is very hot and your succulents dry out really quickly, or the soil dries out very quickly, should I say. But when it's kind of hitting this time of year and the days aren't as warm and the days aren't as long, it will obviously take the soil a lot longer to dry out. So I'm not using the drench method now. It's kind of this time of year, I would stop that and I would just go into a sprinkle with the watering can, really. So I'd get the watering can and just put a little bit of water in. Obviously you can use the method of bottom watering, because I suppose what bottom watering does is encourages the roots to grow to the bottom of that pot to collect that water. But I'm just going to be watering mine from the top, and obviously using that bug clear as well, but just not doing it as, I'm not drenching them as much as I would in the summer, because I need that soil to dry out, and it's not going to do so when the temperature outside is not as warm as it has been. So that's what I'm changing a little bit as well with regards to my watering. If I see some which are thirsty, they're not going to be drenched, they're just going to receive kind of a little, I say a sprinkle, but it's a fair amount of water. It's just not going to drench the soil completely. So I'll actually show you doing a few as well, just so you can see what I mean by my explanations. So my positives for the month, I have had so much success this year, as I showed you my growing greenhouse with leaf props, pups, seedlings. I have got so many, so I'm overwhelmed with the kind of success rate this year, and they're all still continuing to do really, really well. I think, you know, the biggest thing I've learned this year is water. They absolutely love water, which is just goes against everything I've learned for succulents. But yeah, smaller leaf props, seedlings adore water. So yeah, I've been watering really regularly and it's been amazing for them. The growth rate has been amazing this year, and yeah, I've kind of learned I need to make sure I've got all the correct amount of kind of cell trays on the next level up. I've had to keep ordering really quickly because they're getting big so quickly that I need to repot them to continue that growth, because I want them to grow nice and quickly, or as quick as they can. Like Echeveria are very, very slow growing, but this year I'm really happy with the success, and that has continued for this month as well. So I will just show you a lot of those trays now and just give you kind of a a view of them because they are beautiful, and I'm so proud of some of the successes that I've had and the hybrids that I'm making. So obviously next year you will probably be able to see the better true colours of them as they mature, and yeah, they're going to look amazing. I cannot wait. Another part of successes this month is my arrangements outside. They are thriving. We've had rain, we've had sun, we've had wind, and they love it. So I'm just going to do a quick tour of them for you to kind of show you what they've been up to this month. So this one has grown so much this year. I'll just insert a picture of what it was like in April before the season started, and it's absolutely thriving. I've had some odd moments in it, like this one. Oh, obviously got a creature in here. This one just randomly snapped off the stem, but it's now kind of laid itself down and re-rooted again. I've got all sorts down here which are growing really nicely. They look beautiful, and I just love it when you get lots of them kind of all growing, just creating their own arrangement. It just looks, you know, very kind of natural. I've just chucked in things here and they've just done their own thing, and it just looks so beautiful. I've got my only blondie. This was kind of dying off, and I just chucked it in here and it's doing really well. Well, a lot of these are actually kind of last chance succulents as well. I've just popped them in here and hope for the best, and they have really done so well. I've got a prolifica over there. I've got some titibans. I've got a beautiful, is that Horizon? Yeah, that's Horizon. I've got some pinwheel, just all sorts of random ones. A little furry one which I don't have in my collection, so that is again the last one of its kind. But yeah, they're doing really well. I think I show this in most videos, but this is my outrageous trough arrangement, which is just, oh sorry, hexagon arrangement, which is just huge, and it just continues to grow throughout the year. So they're all my ghosts. We've got some Darlies over there, some alpenglows, and yeah, it's just, it thrives. Over on this trellis kind of wall over here, I've got some other arrangements. It's just a bit of everything in here really, but I'll insert a picture of this again at the start of the season, so it does just show how well they do grow outside. I wish I lived somewhere which could have them outside all year round, because I would love it. And they've got some beautiful colours because the sun stresses them out a little bit as well. This one did have my Baron Bold in, but that did not survive. I've got over here some, oh these are pretty in pink, some lotus, alpenglows. These are very common, but I absolutely love them. We've got Debbie, another Darlie Sunshine. Up here we've got kind of a pot of frillies which weren't looking very good. They were all kind of eaten, but they're all recovering really well. So I think we've got an Afterglow, I think that's an Athens, and a, oh I'll have to check and put the name on screen for that one. But yeah, they're looking amazing. They are huge compared to what they were as well, and like I say, that one was eaten by a caterpillar, so that looked terrible. These ones were all burnt, and yeah, they look amazing now. And just a little mention to my lovely roses, because I adore this plant. It's so beautiful. So I just leaf prop this every now and then, leave some leaves in there, sorry, and yeah, they just continue to grow. It looks like we've had something eating this, a snail or a slug, so I need to do some inspecting. That is the only thing we leave them outside. You are prone to slugs and snails, which do like a succulent. This is a new purchase actually, some sedum. So I have, I don't know if it's live yet, it'll be live next week if it's not already, a video on refreshing one of my outside arrangements where I buy some sedum. And this is some of the sedum that's left over, and it's now starting to bloom. So it's such a beautiful flower, and I've just kind of put them in here, and they're doing quite well. This one I did leave too long before I repotted, so it's struggling a little bit, but all the rest seem to be doing quite well. But yeah, I love it. The flower is beautiful. And we've got more over here. They're just looking really, really healthy. So absolutely gorgeous colours in there. Love them. This Laulensis just keeps showing me lots of new pups every so often. I keep taking them off and she keeps producing more, so we love her. That's the only thing outside as well. They get some damage from the rain and the different things. If they get too much water too quickly, that can cause some scarring on the leaves. So that does happen with outside ones, but it's fine. I'm willing to take the risk. And do you know what? I think it actually looked quite pretty. This one last year went all spotty, and I just thought, oh, it looks great. It's just, I think it was hail, and it just looked so pretty still. This is Atlantis, beautiful plant. Got some aeoniums, which love this time of year. They love autumn. They're actually growing really well now because of it's obviously dropped in temperature, which they love. Over here we've got a variegated butterfly dot. This one I don't know what happened. I don't know if it burnt off or got eaten, but we've got some kind of head now reappearing in the middle there, and a big pup has appeared down the side. This is one I've grown from seed. It's a gorgeous arrangement now. Oh, blooming away. That colour on that is just gorgeous. And then up here, this is my other rainbow, raindrop, variegated raindrop. This is my rainbow. This is kind of a risky arrangement with some variegated ones in. You've got Beyonce, but again, they're all doing really well. This one is ginormous. I have no idea even what it is. I thought it was a flapjack, but it's definitely a type of Echeveria, but it's one I grew from seed and just is thriving this year. A little variegated Tinkerbell in there, some variegated Crassula. Over here we've got Maple, a Doris Taylor, got Canty in the middle, some more over here. And then these are the rest of my outside ones, which are doing really well. I just keep getting really worried when it keeps raining so much, but they do dry out really quickly, but the colours on them are just gorgeous. Like that one is a black pink, it's called, and it's really living up to its name. These ones have got huge, these are all just leaf props and things popped in there. Colours are great on those. This one was in the greenhouse and got very burnt, so I just brought it outside to see what happens really. I've got some frillies which love water. These are little arrangements I've done this year. A Mendoza, another arrangement which is kind of a trial, which is thriving. So yeah, all doing really well. So this is one of the leaf prop trays I was talking about. It's now gone up to the next size up, and it's just doing so well. I did have a couple rot, but they are my cream puffs, and I think I've mentioned them in previous videos. I cannot keep them alive. They hate water. I don't know what it is. So they will die off now, and I'll probably get some leaves propagate from them, because that seems to just be the ongoing circle of life for them. But yeah, all of these are doing amazingly. And this one here is a colour shift, and I thought I'd lost the plant, but I think these are 2 leaves which I managed to keep from it, and they are doing so well. So this tray is gorgeous, and I've got some random variegated ones which were not off of variegated plants, so we'll see what happens with them. And my variegated Lola, which I chopped this year, has given me some little pups. I'm just intrigued to see what they turn out like. This is another kind of leaf prop tray. They're just doing so well, and the seedlings this year have grown massively, and just everywhere you look there's small plants. They're just everywhere, and these are kind of what is left from what hasn't been potted on. So yeah, the success this year is crazy. There's more pups over here which have gone up to the next level. There's more seedlings here which have obviously gone up another tray size, and we have still got some stricties over here which I showed you earlier that were rotten in the other greenhouse, so I've still got quite a few, and I've got some in other trays as well. I'm just very cautious that they don't need as much water as others, so when I repot them over next year, I'm going to put them in a bit more of a gritty mix. I think it's just kind of sometimes learning which plants need that grittier mix than others, like for example a Lowy, definitely a Compton Carousel, they just need a lot more grit than they do anything else. But yeah, all sorts growing up here as well. So let's talk bug clear. So this is what I use. This is the Ultra. It treats vine weevil larvae, aphids, scale insect and mealies. I wouldn't say it completely kills mealies, because I still get the odd 1 or 2, but it obviously prevents them a hell of a lot more than it would if you didn't use the treatment. So it's something I use, like I say, twice a year, and does work really well for me. So a litre of water. I've now changed my water. I was using some of my old fish tank water once I'd done my water changes for my fish, but I've learned that that is not good for succulents like it would be for your standard houseplants, because it's full of nitrate and they don't like it too much. So I've gone back to, this is just rainwater which I collect in my water butt, which is softer because I live in a hard water area. So this is soft rainwater, and they love that a lot more. So I've done lots of research this year on things like that as well, which I'm finding very useful. So this cap, weirdly enough, is a bit useless. Sorry, bug clear. But it's 60 ml that we need, and I have a feeling there's probably not enough in here, so I'll have to get my other one. So you need 60 ml as a full treatment. So what is that? That's just under 40. So I'll just grab my other one. So after struggling with the cap, because I cannot do childproof caps, here's the next one. So let's do 50. Oh, so strong. I hate the smell of it. And another 10. So like I say, be really careful with it. I do really recommend it. It's brilliant, but it just smells so toxic and dangerous. So be very careful. So I'm back in my sale greenhouse now, and I will just treat a few of these, or just show you an example of how I'm watering for September. So I will give them kind of a dribble like that, and then let the water drain out the bottom. So they do get a substantial drink, but it's not enough to drench it completely, but it's enough to kind of soak the roots, give them some water, and obviously give them that treatment as well, because they definitely need that ready for winter. This one's a little bit scarred, so I'll probably be removing it from my sale section. Yeah, and that could be for sale next year once that's all grown out. This is my beautiful black swan, very pointy and pink. Yes, I'm just going to give it a little bit of water to get that bug clear treatment in there, and just kind of sprinkle it in. It should drain out quite quickly through the pot if there is a lot in there. Like I said, I'm not giving it a huge amount. I do want to give it a little bit more than that, just because I wanted to get in to those roots both sides. So just make sure it's evenly getting in there. That's the thing with these pots, you can see where the water is getting to, which is really helpful. I just want to make sure that the roots do get a good drink of that treatment. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm watering them. So they're not saturated, they are just getting a decent drink really before the end of the season. Wow, that looks stunning. So not the most exciting subject, but something really, really important is soil. So my kind of research over the last couple of months has led me to learn some new things, which I always find surprising. I've been doing this for 5 years, but I'm still finding out lots of different things, and it's really interesting. So I'm actually going to do a complete separate video on this subject. So anything to do with soil, I'm going to be doing a video for making it maybe over the next month or so. So that'll probably be live in maybe October, November time. And I've just learned a lot basically, so I want to quickly share with you just a few tips which I found really helpful just before that video goes live, because I would like you to kind of put this into action before that video, because you'll swear at me if not. So what I would say is get your substrate kind of prepared now. So if you want to be repotting in winter, which is a great time to repot your collection, they're not growing as much, they don't need as much water, so it's kind of the perfect time to do those little jobs that you're not going to get time to do in spring and summer. So I will be leaving a lot of my collection to be repotted over the winter, so that's something I can, you know, show you in updated videos over the next however many months. What month is it now? September. So yeah, over the next 3 or 4 months I can show you the different repotting that I'm doing and things, and giving you a really good tour of my collection, because the winter colours absolutely glow. We get pinks and reds and beautiful colours, so I'd love to share that with you. But off topic again. So what I would do, and what I have been doing, is getting quite a lot of pots of my mix ready. So my compost, I'm now starting to sieve that. I'm finding that you get quite a lot of bits of big stone, bits of bark, and random bits of plastic and things in. I'm using Johninus number 2. So I'm now starting to sieve that. I'm also mixing it with my molar clay, which is what I used on all previous years. I went off it a little bit this year, but after some research I found that it is actually quite a good kind of substitution for pumice. So pumice in other countries seems to be readily available. I don't know if this is true, but in the UK it's hard to get, and you've got to import it, and import it in bulk, and it's quite expensive. So this molar clay is actually a form of cat litter, which is sold at Tesco's and places like that. So I'm using that at the minute. And the reason for that being, it's kind of a natural mineral, and it absorbs water. So it takes the water out of the soil, it takes it into that piece of clay, and that means that the roots aren't sitting against that moisture for too long. So it's kind of helping with that part of not retaining too much moisture in your mix. And also it adds air, because it's obviously like a kind of stone. It's adding some extra kind of room around those roots so they can get some air in between there, which is brilliant for succulents. And then lastly, I'm using horticultural grit, which I've used all this year. But the only difference is I'm now washing my molar clay and my horticultural grit, because when I wash them, the amount of dirt which comes off them, it's obviously dust and mud and things, but what I've seen this year when watering with my drench and dry method is that that kind of dirt is going through the soil and maybe sitting in there a little bit as well as coming out of the bottom. But when it's sitting in there, obviously the mud and dust and things is probably like clogging up the roots and things. So I'm finding it's a really good idea to wash them before I am then making my mixtures, because yeah, the dust and stuff which is sitting in my pots and against my roots probably isn't very good for the succulents. And when you see these videos, you'll probably be shocked with how much stuff is coming off them. So with regards to that, once I've done my washing and sieving, I'm now preparing lots of different kind of containers. Sorry, I got something on my face. Lots of different containers of my kind of mix. So I've got my compost, my grit and my clay, and I'm doing like a 40-30-30 ratio at the minute, and that seems to be working quite well. It's just going to be trial and error for me with my mixes all the time. I seem to just change my mind about them, but I've done so much research that I think this is a winner, I hope, because like I say, I'm now repotting my whole collection into it. However, my variegated ones are a bit different. I'm not using the molar clay, I'm just using grit because they are a little bit more susceptible to rot. So the point I'm getting to is get your mix ready now. So while it's still warm, get your mix made up into different pots, because if you're going to be repotting throughout the winter, you don't want to be using any soil which might be damp, which is sitting in, you know, your bag of compost. The same with your grit. When I buy mine, the bags are like soaked for some reason, and you don't want the moisture to be sitting in there. So I have made some just little pots, and I'll be making more throughout the next couple of weeks really, and just let them dry out. So by the time it comes to winter, they are bone dry, and I can use that mix to repot my succulents into without any worries of, you know, the roots getting damp and anything like that. So that's something I learned the hard way last year and wanted to share with you. So this is my current mix. As you can see, it's not as lumpy as previous videos you may have seen. It's a really good kind of ratio of the compost with the molar clay, which is the kind of orange parts, and then the horticultural grit, which is just really good at creating drainage and aeration. So I'm just letting that sit and dry out completely. It looks quite dry now, to be honest, but I just want to make sure it is bone dry, because like I say, when I get bags of soil and grit and obviously washing them, that makes everything wet. So I'm just doing lots of kind of pots like this and bigger ones and just dotting them about everywhere, so I've got all my mix ready for winter. So although my favourite time of year for succulents is spring, that's when they awaken and the growth kind of starts, and it just makes me feel like I'm coming out of hibernation with them. Winter is really exciting as well, because you just get to see the most beautiful colours. So what I'm going to probably be doing over the next couple of months is sowing some seeds, because the temperatures are now going to be cool enough to sow some canty seeds, some different Echeveria seeds, because they can germinate between 18 and 25. So it's actually a really good time in the autumn winter to do your seeds. They can grow really slowly over that season until March, and then you can see what kind of growth you have and then get potting them on in the spring, and that kind of makes a perfect timetable for me for my seedlings, and hopefully something maybe you could replicate for yours. Another thing which I'm really looking forward to is repotting. It's, you know, going to be a bit miserable and a bit cold, but I can still come out here and enjoy my collection. So I don't cover my collection like some people do in the UK. They use like a horticultural fleece and something just to kind of, I suppose, protect the succulents from the frost, but I like to still be able to see mine. So I do heat my greenhouse ever so slightly. I've got a fancy little thermometer, which just, I think it's about £15 from Amazon, which is plugged in here, and my heater goes into it. So when it hits, I think like 1 degree, that will kick in and just take it up to like 3 degrees. It's very minimal, and it just keeps the frost off. But I do not water my succulents from probably the end of October, just depending on when the first frost is coming really. So like I say, I now kind of slow down on watering. I water less as well, and that just gets them ready to kind of get into winter and have that dry soil and try and be as plump as they can before the cold temperatures hit. So yeah, it's kind of a very slow time of year for growth. I do find that roots still grow quite well, but yeah, there'll be a lot less growth, but there will be some amazing colours. So that's something to look forward to over the next couple of months. But that's everything for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions or anything you'd like to share with me, please do so. I love hearing from you. If you haven't subscribed already and you enjoy my channel, please do. It means the absolute world to me, it really does. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.